Hello and welcome to episode number 7 of Empowering Women Through Fitness. I'm your host, Bridget, Therese, and can you believe we're already up to 7 episodes? I've had the opportunity to interview and talk to 6 amazing women, and we have quite a ways to go. I am all the way scheduled through the end of April and already reaching out to new guests. So as you come across inspiring women, please send them my way. I also always have the nominate a future guest in the link. If you want to nominate yourself, I'm more than happy to talk to you. I want to say hello, Jane. So nice to see you on here. As always, comment where you're watching from. I love to see where everyone's tuning in, and I appreciate your continuous support. Before I bring Nina on, she's our guest for today. She's a drama therapist, totally different style of therapy, and it comes from the experience that she's gone through. Hi, Meryl. Oh my gosh, well, that's a flashback. It's so nice to see you on here as well. Nina's going to share with us what she does for a living, but it's an amazing way that she's changing people's life. Jane is watching from sunny Florida. I actually think Meryl's watching from Florida as well. But before I bring Nina on, one of the other things I wanted to talk about before we get into that was I had the opportunity to go to my second Tony Robbins event yesterday, and it was an amazing event. A couple of years ago, probably 3 or 4 years ago, I went to Unleash the Power Within, and it was a completely life-changing event. It's 4 days of intensive self-development, working through a lot of those doubts and beliefs. If you've ever been to a Tony Robbins event, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If not, and you are looking to make significant change in your life, I totally suggest going. And yesterday I had the chance to talk to my friend Jeff, who signed me up, helped me get signed up for Tony Robbins back in 2014, 2015. And he was all excited because Tony's coming to Dallas in July. And I've been thinking about organizing a group of people from Houston to go, or just anywhere you can fly in. People fly in from literally all over the world. But I've tagged Jeff, and I've also inserted his email into this. If you are interested in going to see Tony Robbins and really having an intensive personal development weekend, I encourage you to check that out. Reach out to him. Reach out to me. I'm happy to share with you my experiences. But let me see if Nina is on. I don't see her yet. So let me just see. I can also check on my Facebook page and see if she's here yet. So give me a second to find her. And we'll just make sure she's all set to go. Okay, so I think she's ready. There she is. Okay, so we'll just give her a second to connect. And while we wait, we'll just do a little dance, sing a little song. Where's she at? This technology is amazing and also frustrating at the same time, but I think says adding her, so we'll just wait here a second. Well, she comes on. So I see Jared is watching. Want to say hello to Jared. Nice to see you here. Hope you were doing well. Who else do we have watching? If you're here, drop a comment, say hello. If you're watching on the replay, thanks so much for joining us. Say hello, hashtag replay, so I know you're watching us later. Let's see, David Jones is watching. Nami is watching, and I'm not sure why this isn't working, so let me try this again. This is the joy of technology, you guys. Let me tell her. And, Nina, if you're watching, go ahead and ask to join my live again. Meryl is watching from the plane on the runway in Charlotte, I believe that is. Probably going to drop off soon. No worries, Meryl. Nice to hear from you. Tech rules. Tech rules. Yes, you know that. Okay, where is she? Sorry, you guys. Sometimes this works like seamlessly, and then sometimes not so seamlessly. So we'll just hang in here for a second. Hi, David, watching from Florida. So nice to see you here. Kathy Fisher. Oh my gosh. Hi, Kathy. So nice to see you. Okay, Nina's here. Let's try this again. So we're just trying to add Nina. For those of you who are just jumping on, she's my guest for today. She is a drama therapist here out of Houston, but I know she does, I think, even online sessions as well. But totally a cool way.
Oh my goodness.
And there she is. Hi, Nina.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. I was trying to figure out what the heck was happening.
Oh, that's okay. I was just, enjoying technology and filling in the space while we waited for you to take next. But you're here.
I was dancing behind the scenes.
Yeah, I'm sure you were. I have no doubts about that at all. Well, for those of you who have never met, this is Nina Garcia. She's a Houston drama therapist. And Nina, one of the ways I always start on my show is with a few icebreaker questions. So we're just gonna jump through those real quick, and then we'll get to the meat of the show. Is that cool?
Okay, let's rock and roll.
All right. Where did you grow up?
Oh, what a question. I was born in New York. I was raised a few years in the Northeast. I lived in Jersey, Virginia, Pennsylvania, and every year in between that, we came back down to Houston. Spent 15 years in Houston, so I consider myself a Houstonian. I went to middle school here, parts of elementary, all of high school, did my undergrad here, and then I went and did my graduate back up at NYU.
Perfect. And I guess to the next question, you live in Houston now.
Mm-hmm.
What is something you are grateful for today?
Family. I'm really grateful for family.
Perfect. If you could have lunch with anyone, who would it be and why?
If I could have lunch with anyone, at this moment, what's present with me is probably with my grandmother. She passed away when I was younger, and I didn't really get to ask her questions that are now really important to me, like what was it like to be a first-generation American? What was it like to travel from Puerto Rico to America and not speak the language? There are a lot of identity and questions about identity that I would love to sit down with her and just ask her, what was that like?
Yeah, that's so cool. What is a new skill you would like to learn?
A new skill I'd like to learn. Ooh. Okay, this one's really simple. This one's really simple though. So everybody likes swimming for the most part, right? And if you know how to swim, you probably know how to swim without holding your nose. I don't know how to do that. So I'd like to know how to really. So I'd like to know how to swim without holding my nose.
That's amazing, and that is a fantastic goal. When I come to the water park with me this summer. Okay, what is one item on your bucket list you've accomplished?
I traveled alone. I went to Ireland by myself, did a cross-country trip by myself. It was incredible. I think every woman should travel alone at some point in her life, and highly recommend Ireland because I felt safe, I felt welcomed. It was an amazing experience and so beautiful. It's so beautiful.
Wow, that's awesome. What is one item on your bucket list you'd like to check off next?
This is a tricky one. There are so many.
Just pick the next.
On my bucket list, although I suppose this isn't really a big bucket list thing, but it's really important to me. I'd like to be a mother.
Ooh, there you go. Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that one too. There you go. That's perfect. Okay, so why don't you just start by introducing yourself a little bit, and you can start wherever you want in that, but kind of I want you to be comfortable in the content that you share, in which part of your story you share, what context you want to share. And so I'm going to kind of just give you the floor, and I'll just interject with questions if that's cool.
Okay, great. Cool with that? Yeah. So you want me to start with just a little bit about what I do, or a little bit about the story?
Yeah. Maybe you can start with what you do, and then we can talk about how you got.
Okay, let's rock and roll. So I'm a drama therapist, right? The generic term for what I am is a creative arts therapist, and I specialize in drama therapy. So that means that I'm using a lot of embodied interventions in psychotherapy. The same way that you would go see any other therapist that's dealing with mental health and wellness, you could come see me for all the same things. The only difference is that instead of just talking, which I totally do with all of my clients at some point or another, we're also going to be acknowledging that a lot of our narratives happen to be stored in the body. So while we might be telling ourselves one thing and saying, no, this is how I feel, this is how I feel, the body don't lie. It just doesn't. So we play with that in the space, and we sort of end up a lot of the times playing with trauma, and not in a way that trivializes it, but in a way that says, I can deal with this in a distanced fashion. I can deal with this trauma. We're playing with it. Yeah. So I do that. It's very powerful work.
Which you kind of, and I have the advantage of knowing you, but you grew up in doing drama and acting and singing and that whole thing. So hence the energy, guys.
Yes, I have a huge performance background.
I think I move my hands a lot, but I love that about you. It's so contagious, and that's why I think why we connected so quickly in the room at the wherever we met. Okay, what's next?
Oh, okay. So that's what I do presently. I have a private practice here in Houston, and Houston Creative Arts Therapy. But I think what really drew me to speaking on your show in particular was the struggle that I had in graduate school, trying to make sure that I was up and ready, that I had a balanced work and life situation. And as a person who I consider to be healthy and full of energy and sort of like that optimist and that go-getter who's like, you get the job done no matter what, that even with all of these great resilient attributes, that I really struggled when I was thrown into a new environment and was completely off balance. And so, long story short, I had been in Texas for a while, was ready to go back to graduate school, and then jetted off to New York and was ready. I was like, I got this, I'm going to do good. Didn't realize that even though I'd wanted this for years, even though I felt very passionately about going back to graduate school, that it be in New York, that stuff I didn't realize that so many things were changing. Like every day I would do something with my dogs, right? I had my dogs. They didn't go with me to New York, so that's gone. Every day I would see my fiance, didn't go with me to New York, so that's gone. Every day I was able and had the time to cook my own meals. I could drive my own car. That was gone. That was gone. Open space in Houston, no open space in New York. That was gone. And so all these things that we take for granted every day, I moved to New York and didn't have any of them. And I thought, wow, I got this. It's temporary. I'm a go-getter. I can do this. And the struggle for those of us who are like, I can't do this, is that maybe some stuff falls through the cracks that we're not even recognizing because we're constantly telling ourselves, you got to get to that next step. You got to move forward, right? That's what an empowered woman is. She's got to keep going. And so even though I had a self-care regimen, I took myself out. Even though if it was alone, I would get myself dressed up. I would take myself to dinner. I would go to the movies. I would go out and enjoy walks. I ran. I listened to music. I did all sorts of stuff to try to bring myself to balance. And what I didn't realize was at the same time that I was go, 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 get, was that my diet is where it was showing imbalance in my life. And so let me break it down for you. I would literally work all day, and I am not alone in this, right? I don't know how many people work all day and they say, oh, I just grab a snack here, I skip breakfast, I don't have time, right? And that's the excuse, is I don't have time to eat. Yeah. And then you get home and you like eating, right? Because you got to get that back. Well, what I was doing every day was that, right? What it ended up being was, at first I was eating too quickly, and the doctor was like, this is why your system's all jacked up. You're eating too quickly. You're not swallowing your food right. And I was like, okay. Calm it down. I can, now that you've told me this, I can eat a little slower. I can chew my food a little more. It'll be good. It was not good. Right. It was not good. Okay. So what ended up happening was, again, long story short, I was paying attention to how I ate, but my body stopped being able to eat. And the way that I could describe that is I was hungry. I felt hungry. I knew that I wanted to eat. And yet my body would reject food. Not like I would toss it. I would like try to eat it, and I just one bite, and then like my body was like, what's it? We're done. Even at the same time as I felt hunger. Yeah, right? So try to just imagine that that your body feels hunger and at the same time is saying, I'm absolutely not going to eat that. It's not going to happen. And it had nothing to do with wanting to be thin. It had nothing to do with being worried about my weight, right? What was happening was my body, because of the stress and anxiety and sense of displacement that I felt, all the imbalance that was happening in my life, my body was trying to deal with that by controlling how I was eating. And my anxiety and stress was not having it. So,
Wow.
yes. So what was happening was this disordered eating was developing, right? Which is different than an eating disorder, right? Because if you have an eating disorder, how the medical community looks at that is that you are attributing how much you eat to your weight, right? That either you're restricting or you're binging or purging or whatever the case is, that you're doing something because you are concerned psychologically about how it's affecting your weight. That's not what I had. I had disordered eating, and I had it intensely. I struggled to eat. I struggled to be able to continue to try new things, because everything I would just sort of, I was worried that I was going to feel that sense of shut down. And that's what I felt. I felt like my body was rejecting me. I had no control over it. It was incredibly, incredibly frustrating. It made me sad. It was so, so difficult. I remember one day being with family. They actually had flown up for the holidays, and my fiance was there, and he got me a Subway sandwich, and I took one bite, and I realized I couldn't eat the rest of it. And I'm sitting there just numbed out at this point. I'm numbed out. My family's all having this great time around me, and I just walk in, and I start, like, tears start coming down my face, and I'm crying. And my mother pulls me aside, and she's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I go, Mom, I can't eat. I can't eat, and I don't know why. And it was really, really hard. I think we take for granted every day that when we're able to eat, it's easy to take that for granted until all of a sudden your body says, it's not happening, you're not doing it. And if you try to, you'll feel even worse, right? So, and this came with I was cramping all the time because my stomach was hungry. I didn't have enough in it. What was finally a turning point for me for just getting something in my stomach was my aunt sat down and she made me avena, which is like oatmeal, but like cream of oatmeal, like really, really soft, really easy to eat. And as simple as that sounds, it was a blessing. It was a blessing for me to realize if my body's rejecting something right now and I can't do solid food, that this is where I need to start. So, yeah. Keeping continuing after that, things ended up eventually getting better, but I literally had to realize that even though I was a go-getter, even though I loved myself, even though I had a self-care plan, even though I had all these things that I was like, I'm resilient, I'm strong, because there was an imbalance in my life still, at the bottom of my deepest core self, there was an imbalance. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. And so these are things that I wish I saw several doctors, and this is what, if you were having these concerns, like these are the things that I say, I saw several doctors of different varieties of general practitioners for heart, for stomach, female doctors specifically just for women and their concerns. And not a single one of them asked me if I was having problems eating. Not a single one of them asked me if I had ever considered having an eating disorder or disordered eating. Not a single one of them. And I knew that I was having digestive problems, and none of them asked me that. And so it's a huge problem. As I started to do more research and talk with other women, it became a huge thing to me. I was realizing people aren't realizing that, you know, when you don't eat all day and then you do something, you know what I mean? And then you need to eat at night, that there's something up with that. If your body's rejecting food, there's something up with that you should probably be exploring, right? What ended up happening after this, I was like, no, I got to get this in check. I got to get this in check. This isn't working. So I started to say, you know, even if I'm not eating all day, when I get home at night, I'll treat myself to some like Chinese food, like some takeout, and I'll eat all that, and I'll get all my calories in one meal. Okay. Just hear the problem in that. I'll get all my calories in one meal. What? Right. And so the reality was, after the fact, after I'd done even more research, what I didn't realize I was doing is that I was actually restricting my diet all day. I was restricting my body from food all day. And then at night I was binging. That's the reality of what I was doing. But I told myself it's okay if I don't eat during the day. I'll just make sure I get enough calories at night. And it wasn't about controlling my weight, and it wasn't about wanting to be thin. It was about needing
Yeah.
control in a world that I felt like I had no control over anything. And this isn't just a single, woman moves to New York and has a displacement imbalance issue. This is a constant problem for people in graduate school. This is a problem for women who are in the workplace and feel like they've got to go, go, go. It's a huge problem, and we're not talking about it. We're not talking about it.
Yeah. Well, and one of the other things too, if you only eat one time a day, you're essentially training your metabolism to like, it slows down and it starts shutting down, and you won't actually, well, you will lose some weight to some degree, but then but your body's going to go into starvation mode. But it's the importance of just, even I can get really caught up in work right now. And a lot of times I will put off eating, or I'll just dismiss it. But what I've noticed is I will just like be staring at my computer or staring at my phone and just blank out and be like, I don't even remember what I was going to do. And immediately my thought has to go, okay, when's the last time I ate? And I literally will like close my computer, put my phone down, go to the kitchen, go get something to eat, because having that fuel is so important. And even when I was training for my shows, like all I had to do, I had to eat constantly. And if I went over 2 hours, my body was like screaming at me. So, continue.
No, I think everything you just said, I mean, it's like, it's a concern in so many different facets. And I think if I had to say anything, what I would say is that you have to prioritize you, and you have to know what your flags are, right? Because for you said you were looking at the laptop and then you would zone out, and then you'd be like, oh, this is my sort of like, I'm red flagging right now, right? And so you would close the laptop and you would prioritize you. And so when you're in these modes and you know that you're a go-getter and you want to make sure that you get in the zone, but you also want to prioritize you, you have to know what your flags are. And nobody can know you better than you know you, right? So I implore people to get to know their bodies. Get to know your body, and get to know when you're getting foggy. Get to know when all of a sudden you get antsy. Get to know if there's something that feels like it's like something huge that you're blowing out of proportion, and you're wondering, wait a minute, that's really small. Why am I blowing that out of proportion? Yeah, I wonder, when was the last time you ate? Where's your blood sugar at, right? And it seems so simple, but it's not.
It does, yeah. It does seem so simple, and that's been actually probably within the last year or so. I've been really, actually, it probably happened when I broke up with the last, like a while ago. We'll put it that. It's like 2 years ago when I did not follow my instincts, and ended up being cheated on. But like after that experience, I started paying attention to my instincts so much more and giving them the respect that they deserve. I'm like, shoot, my body and everything else knew way before I would ever even admit it or acknowledge it. But now it's like, if I get anxious, I like stop. Okay, what am I anxious for? And I will pin it all the way back to what I feel unsettled about. If I zone out, and these are all things people can do. If you start feeling anxious or like antsy, like why you can't sit still, okay, stop yourself and just think, what is it that I'm going through? What is it that I'm anticipating? And if it's something you can't handle until tomorrow, be like, I will handle it tomorrow, and like let it go. Like if you're laying in bed and you have all these things, if I can't do anything about it now, I will do it in the morning. Or just whatever works for you. But like you said, getting to know your body, and listening to it for crying out loud. Just listen to it. Erin asked one of the girls watching about intermittent fasting, which can be trendy. I'll let you say if you have any opinions on it, and then I can say what I feel. But she says, is that safe? What do you think?
I think every body is different, right? And I think that there's intermittent fasting that happens because it is, just like you said, culturally trendy. It's a fad, right? And then also some religious, cultural factors that can be involved in that as well, right? And so when we talk about intermittent fasting, what are the results that you're seeing, right? I would need more details to really, really sort of handle that one. But I mean, what's the response that your body's responding to? That would be my number one thing, right? If you're feeling okay after it, if you feel like it's something that's benefiting you, and you know that logically you can back this up, emotionally you can back this up, that your body physically you can back that up, and also that socially that people around you aren't saying like, why are you acting this way, right? If it's all backed up, you have that support that says, okay, this is something that's okay for me and my journey at this present moment, right? Next week, that may not be the case, but in this present moment, you can say that. If we're sort of iffy on any of those facets, then I would question, is there a need to intermittent fast? Where's the benefit,
Yeah, and I would also just add to that, anytime you're starting something new, like some people want to try the keto diet or things like that, anything that is essentially a newer trend or whatever, I always tell people to do their research. Like, if I don't do it without following a structured plan. And to add on to that, if anybody else has questions for myself or Nina, always feel free to ask us questions. We can always come back and comment either even afterwards if it's after it's not live. But there was something else you were saying that I wanted to kind of go off of, but I can't think of it right now. So, so how do you eat now? Let's talk about what you do now too, because I know you're a busy girl. I know sometimes you have back-to-back meetings. What are some snacks you like, or how do you manage it now?
Yeah, so I make sure that the minute I wake up in the morning that I get me a glass of water, actually. I get my body started that way. I get hydrated, right? We can get really dehydrated overnight. So I get me a glass of water. I always make sure that I eat breakfast, that I eat something. I have 3 square meals a day. I have my breakfast, I have lunch, I have dinner. I also have snacks in between. About every 2 hours, I find that for my body and my journey presently, and I'm always trying to tell people, like, you have to pay attention to what your body and your journey is doing, because like our bodies aren't the same, right? What works for me may not work for you and vice versa. That's like so important that we're able to own our journey. And so for me, 3 square meals a day, and every 2 hours I get hungry, so I'm having snacks in between, and I carry that stuff with me. I've got rice cakes someday, and then I'll bring like a jar of peanut butter, and I'm not kidding y'all, I got me a jar of peanut butter some days in my purse. Some days if I'm feeling peanut butter, then that's what my body needs, then that's what I take, right? If I'm out and about, I love doing parfaits. I like doing parfaits at home too. The vanilla bean yogurt with a little bit of granola, my favorite fruits. Smoothies. I mean, I don't deny my body anything. If it feels like it wants something, then I will give it that, and I will grant it that. And what I'm constantly thinking, so that I'm not thinking about, am I restricting or am I binging? What I'm thinking about is, what does my body want? Does this feel okay as it's going into my body? How am I feeling after that, right? And I'm always thinking about balance, variety, and moderation. I can't have a smoothie every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. That would not be very balanced, right? So balance, variety, and moderation. Every meal, that's what I'm thinking. Is this balance? Is it, am I having a variety of things? And am I moderating myself? And that helps me keep the balance.
That's perfect. And I like how you said you really listen to what your body wants. And that was one of the things I had to relearn after going through years of competing and being so strict and dealing with the guilt of not eating perfect or clean or missing a workout or all that stuff. There was so much pressure around that lifestyle. And like, I had to reprogram myself because I would feel guilty. I'm like, oh crap, what am I going to look like tomorrow when I wake up? Am I going to be whatever. We all have those crazy thoughts. I don't need to share them all with you that I had, but like, it was a real struggle for me to go through that on kind of retraining and redeveloping my beliefs around food. But the key that you say there is having balance and moderation. Like, I can't, it's the same thing as drinking beer or wine or something like that. It's okay to have a glass, but if you're having a glass that turns into a bottle, that turns into a case, there might be a problem there. And that would be the same as if McDonald's turns into 1 time, to turns into 3 times, to turns into every day. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Your body really needs that variety. And your body is created to heal itself too, which I've also been learning. Like, and it needs the right nutrition and the right nutrients to do that.
Yes.
If you're giving it McDonald's and it really needs like vitamin C, what's your body supposed to do? It's gonna probably freak out and shut down and be like, cold.
And
I don't know what else to do.
it works both ways too. I think that like in American culture, right? And I think this is what the research shows, right? Is that we like what's the word? Like we really throw down like going out and getting fast food or going out and eating unhealthy. Like we have this like huge stigma around it because it's like this fear of being fat, right? And let's call it what it is. It's a fear of gaining weight and not being accepted, fill in the blank, not being healthy, whatever it is that the concern is, right? But the reality is that if I'm eating salads every day, that's the same thing. There's no balance, variety. I need balance, variety, moderation. I can't have kale for breakfast and lunch and dinner and it's all salads, right? That's not balanced either. And so it's so important that we can realize, like, is this balance? Is it a variety? Am I moderating myself? And every now and then, is it okay if I'm like, hey, I want some Mickey D's? Is that okay? Only you can tell what's okay on your journey, right? But I would hope that we wouldn't be depriving our bodies if our body says, okay, I want that. Or if it does, and we're like, oh, I'm really craving something salty, McDonald's is here. Maybe you go and get you some salted nuts. I don't know, right? But really, you have to know your body. And there is no con to knowing your body better. There just isn't. Know thy body.
Exactly. That is the emphasis and the whole premise of the show today. Know thy body. That should be a hashtag or a tweet or something.
You heard it, guys. Hashtag know thy body. Oh.
So we're pretty much at time. We're at 28 minutes. And I will also just throw out, since we're talking about it, I know you don't necessarily do this, but if you need help with a nutrition plan, I do that. I do help you with nutrition plans and kind of finding what works for you. It is a process. So if you're at square one, you've never done it before, it's a journey. But like if you don't even know where to start, I do have links in the show links all the time for any requests for coaching or anything like that.
I love that.
And I also have links in the show notes for Nina over here for anybody who would be interested in drama therapy. And you guys, it's a total different experience than going and sitting across somebody who has a notepad and asks you generic questions that has never been through anything. I've been in those therapy rooms. Those sessions never helped me. But try something different. If you need help, like, don't be afraid to ask. We're also breaking the stigma of asking for help when you need it, and not being afraid to reach out. And Nina is so fun, you guys. Like, it would be a totally different experience, and she's got a really cool energy, so you will always leave feeling better, and I promise you that. But anyways, before we go, Nina, what would you say to a woman who desires to be more empowered?
Let's see, in the context of this show, in the context of my life, in this moment,
yes,
I think own your present narrative. Own your present story.
Expound on that.
What?
Expound on that a little bit.
Yeah.
Expound on that a little bit.
Definitely.
I understand your lingo, but not everybody.
Yeah, right? So it's just thinking about your story, right? And what makes you your story, right? Which is different than maybe your history and your family's history or your cultural background, right? All history, all of that all factors into your story. But to say that I know my present story, for example, is to say that I don't feel like a victim of disordered eating anymore. I feel like a survivor. That's my present story. And I'm going to own that narrative, right? Food doesn't control me anymore. I am able to regulate that. Owning your present narrative is so important and empowering, because even if in my present narrative, let's say I do feel like a victim. And if I can own that, then now I can know how I can move forward. But if I can't own that I'm a victim and I feel like one, then I'm maybe inadvertently, but still keeping myself under wraps, and I can't move forward. If I cannot own my narrative, I cannot see what can come. It makes it harder. So I want people to empower themselves. Get to know your body, get to know how your emotions work, get to know what your red flags are, the things that are sort of like, oh, that doesn't feel like me, that feels off kilter. Get to know all of that and own your present narrative, which means not the narrative from last week, not the narrative from when you felt, XYZ with, Bobby Sue Joe. Present narrative. It's so empowering. Yes, it's so empowering to say, this is who I am today, And that's okay. This is who I am today, and that's okay.
Yeah, it's your starting point. You always got to have that starting point.
Absolutely.
Any closing thoughts?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, actually, just one. I think there's different levels, right? And some women watching may be feeling like they need some help with nutrition, and it's like, hey, Bridget's got your back, right? And then if you feel like you've got some disordered eating concerns, like I did, where it's really disrupting and causing dysfunction, I think go see a dietitian or a therapist that specializes in eating disorders. And that's so key. See someone who specializes in eating disorders if you think that you are at that level, so that you can make sure that you get the support that you need at that level, because that's a specialized concern. I went 2 years before I figured out that this was what was happening. Don't go 2 years. Not if you can help it.
Yeah.
Reach out.
Exactly. Reach out. All right, Nina, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your Thursday evening to join us.
Thanks.
So nice to see your smiling face. You can go ahead and click the little X in your box and bounce, and I will go ahead and close the show. But thanks again for being here.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye. So I just want to say a huge thanks to Nina. I love her energy, and she's so refreshing to be around. She really has a cool story that we didn't get in today, but the truth bombs she dropped were fantastic. Next week, I am talking to Lori all the way in New Zealand. It will be 2 o'clock on Friday by the time we talk to her. How cool is that? But she is an awesome lady that I love, and we are going to connect with her. She's going to share some of her story. She's huge into fitness as well, so that is going to be awesome. Don't miss it. If you have any questions on Tony Robbins or any of the content you hear in the shows, please always feel free to reach out. And as well, share this. If you know somebody that would love watching the show, please share it or tag a friend. And we will see you guys next week on Thursday. Thanks so much for watching.